For the written replies, questions number 1 to 5 are in the name of the Honorable Member, Ms. Annette Ferguson, and are for the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs. Questions number 6 and 7 are in the name of the Honorable Member, Ms. Nima Flubes, and are for the Honorable Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport. Number 8 is in the name of the Honorable Member, Mr. Devin Sears, and is for the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Question 9 is in the name of the Honorable Member, Ms. Tabitha Sarabo Hali, and is for the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs. The answers to these questions have all been received and have, therefore, in accordance with our standing orders, been circulated. Questions number 10, 11, and 12 are in the name of the Honorable Member, Ms. Tabitha Sarabo Hali, and is for the Honorable Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance and the public service. So question number 10 is from the Honorable Member, Ms. Tabitha Sarabo Hali, and is for the Honorable Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance and the public service, the Honorable Ashni Kumar Singh. I will say that a lot of this information is contained in the estimates, but I'll allow the Honorable Member to ask the question and the Minister to respond. Ms. Hali.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Minister, can the Honourable Minister please inform the House of the number of public servants currently employed on contract as of November 2024 outside of the remit of the Public Service Commission?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And allow me, first of all, sir, to thank you, sir, for making the point, and in that regard, preempting me perhaps a little bit, which I appreciate, in making the point, as I said, that first of all, as the Honourable Member knows, no doubt, information on staff on contract is, of course, included in staffing details, tables published under every program and within every agency in the Volume 1 of the National Estimates, which we just considered. The Honourable Member would also, of course, be aware, sir, that Standing Order 21P, I should say, does stipulate that a question shall not be asked seeking information set forth in accessible or ordinary works of reference. But that notwithstanding, sir, I am happy nevertheless to inform the Honourable Member that were the staffing details tables contained in the national estimates to be examined, it would be ascertained that as at the end of 2024, December 2024, which is the point at which we have data readily available, there is a total of 8,173 persons employed on contract. I might add, Mr. Speaker, that the only agencies for which those details are not published would be the constitutional commissions, because they are allocated their monies in a lump sum in accordance with the Constitution. And so there isn't a disaggregation either of their, there isn't a disaggregation of their employment by contract and other individual line items. But otherwise, this information is available for everybody else, every other agency, all ministries, regions, and departments in the central government. And the total is 8,173, which incidentally also includes for the constitutional agencies, which information we've obtained and included. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member Ms. Halley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just to note that the question was asked before this budget came out. And so this information was not in the public when the question was asked. So can the Honourable Minister, just a follow-up, sir, can the Honourable Minister say whether the government has, whether the salaries given to the persons on contract are above the salary scales recognized by the PSC and the Ministry of Public Service?
Minister?
Mr. Chairman, the answer to that question is no, that is not ordinarily the case.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. Just final follow-up on this one. Can the Honourable Minister then say whether the government has weighed the option, since there is no difference in terms of the salaries, whether the government has weighed the options and determined that gratuity is more economically feasible for the country and the individual over pension for years of service work?
Minister?
Mr. Chairman, this People's Progressive Party civic government has infinite faith in the ability of the citizens of Guyana to make and exercise judgments on their own behalf. We don't presume to know the liquidity preferences of any individual citizen. There are some citizens who would be perfectly happy to forego a 22.5% gratuity in the interest of earning and becoming entitled to a post-retirement pension when they individually and respectively retire. There are other citizens who might consciously and deliberately prefer to forego a post-retirement pension upon their eventual retirement and instead receive today a 22.5% gratuity on top of their monthly emoluments. And we make that choice available to public servants. If you wish to go on the pensionable establishment, you're entitled to do so once obviously you meet the requirements of the job, etc. And we don't prevent anybody from going onto the pensionable service, I should say. If, on the other hand, you wish to receive a pension as a conscious, thinking, rational individual, if, on the other hand, you wish instead to receive a gratuity and not a pension, post-retirement pension, then we allow you to exercise that choice. Mr. Speaker, it is apposite to note that during the 5-year period from 2015 to 2020, when the APNU AFC was in government, they made efforts. I will use the word loosely. I suspect I would be venturing onto the fringes of parliamentary propriety, but they outlawed, not completely, but largely outlawed contract employment. And several persons were compelled to give up, to surrender their contract gratuity status and go onto the pensionable establishment. Several persons, thousands of persons. And Mr. Speaker, what that meant instantly is that these persons lost their 22.5% gratuity. They suffered a cut in their emoluments by that 22.5% was lost by the heavy-handed approach taken by the APNU AFC to say you must go onto the pensionable establishment.
They don't believe that people can make free choice.
Mr. Speaker, doctors in the public healthcare system, doctors on the public healthcare system were told you must go on the pensionable establishment, and their gratuity was taken away from them.
They don't believe people can make free choice, just like democracy.
Sir, that gratuity was taken away from them. Their emoluments were cut. Mr. Speaker, let's understand what 22.5% represents. It's almost a quarter of your emoluments. It's almost a quarter of your emoluments. They took a quarter of these people's emoluments, took it literally out of their pockets because of their heavy-handedness. Sir, all of those doctors said to the then leader of the opposition, well, not all of them, but several delegations of doctors went to see the leader of the opposition, now vice president, and said, we are aggrieved by this government for them taking away our 22.5% gratuity. And they appealed to the People's Progressive Party to please fix it. So much so, Mr. Speaker, that we wrote into our manifesto that when we come back into government, we will restore the right of people to go on contract gratuity. And as soon as we came back into government, we gave those doctors the right to go back on contract gratuity, and they all went back on contract gratuity. Mr. Speaker, I have public servants working in the Ministry of Finance, and I have a particular example in mind. Obviously, I will respect the confidentiality of the conversation that I had. But this is a long-standing public servant. And I spoke with this gentleman. And we were speaking generally about what transpired. I was basically catching up on things that would require my attention on my return in 2020. Mr. Speaker, one of the first things this gentleman said to me was that he was forced to go onto the pensionable establishment. And he said, Minister, I would like to go back on contract gratuity because I want my 22.5%. And we respected his wishes, we granted his wishes, and he's back on contract gratuity today. Because he, like so many others, consciously prefer to receive a 22.5% gratuity now instead of a post-retirement pension. But in typical fashion, sir, the APNU AFC has no concept of respecting the wishes of the people. They have no concept whatsoever of respecting the wishes of the people.
Just like an election.
As is reflected in their electoral behavior, sir. We, on the other hand, Mr. Speaker, in the People's Progressive Party Civic, will always respect the wishes of the people of Guyana. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Honorable Member, Ms. Halley. Before I give you the floor, we asked a question pertaining to the number of persons on contract. We've now gone into their salaries and their pension arrangements, right? For me, a deviation from the question. If you're good, Ms. Ferguson, you have something to say to me? I'll suspend and you can say it. Good morning to you too. Yes, Ms. Halley, if you're going
I'm
to
listening to you, sir.
deal with numbers, I allow one more. If not, we move on to your next question.
Mr. Speaker, the question, you can guide me. I asked on the numbers of persons who are on contract, and contract suggests certain things as opposed to persons who are not on contract. And so
I'm not a lawyer.
So
I just have been a lawmaker for almost 30 years, not a lawyer.
I understand
Right?
that. So I'm seeking your guidance.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying that even though we
So-
spoke on contract, we can't get into numbers. We can't get into the specifics
Right now,
of
I'm
the
dealing
contract.
with numbers, and the clerk will tell you when we go through these things. I err on the side of caution. And because I'm not a lawyer, I don't know all the legal principles. I'm safe that way. So please, let's stick to the numbers.
Okay, Mr. Speaker.
And all of the breakdown for all the agencies are contained in the budget.
Mr. Speaker, as I initially said, those numbers weren't available when the question was asked, right? So
No, we understand
the
that,
basis
and
of
you
that.
repeated
I will
that.
go to the next question and then deal with what
Okay,
was
let
what
me
was-
first give you the floor before you go there, right? Okay. So question number 12. Sorry, question number 11. Sorry. Again, it's from the Honorable Member, Ms. Tabitha Sarabo Hali, and for the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Public Service. You may ask the question now, Ms. Hali.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can the Honourable Minister indicate the number of public servants, including those from the traditional public service, including nurses, doctors, teachers, soldiers, who have resigned from the public service between August 2020 to August 2024? For November 2024, sorry.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Permit me, sir, to once again turn to the standing orders that govern our proceedings. So, Standing Order 21B says that the questions essentially, I'm not reading the preamble, the chapeau, but basically says that a question shall not deal with the action of a minister for which he or she is not responsible to the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is a former Minister of Public Service, and I can only imagine that she's asking me in my capacity as Minister responsible for the public service. Sir, as a former Minister of Public Service, the honourable member would, I believe, be aware that teachers, police officers, and soldiers do not fall within the remit of the Public Service Ministry. But in relation to those agencies and categories of public service employees who do fall within the remit of the Ministry of the Public Service Ministry, it is my duty, sir, to inform the honourable member that a total of 2,832 employees are, based on information currently available at the ministry and supplied to me by the technical team at the ministry, a total of 2,832 employees are estimated to have resigned from the public service between the period from August 2020 to December 2024. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Minister. Before I call on the honorable member again, Minister, you're absolutely correct. In fact, when we looked at this question, I raised the issue exactly what you said. Public servants are public servants as defined. And anyone else could be maybe a state employee or something else. Honorable Member, Ms. Hali?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a follow-up. Can the Honourable Minister state whether any formal assessment has been done to determine the number of resignations and what systems have been put in place to reduce the level of resignations in the public service, or whether you see this as a normal level of resignations per year?
Honorable Minister.
So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, rather, the economy of Guyana is going through some significant changes that are relevant to the matter that is being raised in the current question. Mr. Speaker, since the return of the People's Progressive Party civic to government in August 2020, there has been a clear increase in the rate of economic growth, an expansion of private sector activity across the entire spectrum of productive activity, an entry of new investors, both foreign direct investors and domestic private sector investors, establishing new companies and business enterprises, employing people, creating employment opportunities, and generating income earning opportunities for the people of Guyana. What that has meant is that all citizens of Guyana now have a wider array of employment opportunities than at any other time, frankly, any other time in our country's entire history. Not only the previous 5 years, but indeed at any other time in our country's history. There are more employment opportunities today in Guyana than at any other time in our country's history. And what that means, that has very evident implications for the mobility of labor. Because people are now able, as they should in an ideal world, people are now able to look across the entire spectrum of opportunities and pursue those where they are able and eligible to do so. And in fact, we're going further, and we're investing heavily in training for all Guyanese people, not just public servants, including public servants, of course, but all Guyanese citizens and all Guyanese nationals, including training through the Gold Scholarship Program, on which much was said during the course of the budget debate, including through the removal of fees at the University of Guyana and the cancellation of outstanding student loans in relation to courses done and loans taken to finance courses at the University of Guyana. All of these initiatives aimed at upskilling Guyanese nationals, giving them an opportunity, giving every single Guyanese person an opportunity to acquire new skills with a view to them improving their own individual circumstances and contributing to national economic life. And so that investment in training is making it also more, is having also this additional implications for the mobility of labor. People are able to move back and forth between jobs, between employment and self-employment and entrepreneurial opportunities, and across employment opportunities as they wish. And that's a healthy thing. We are pleased as a government at the successes that we have achieved in creating more employment opportunities so that every single Guyanese person has a wider array of choices in terms of what kind of productive activity, what kind of employment opportunity, what kind of entrepreneurial activity they wish to engage in. We see that as a resoundingly positive thing. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, we have also, of course, been raising the terms and conditions of employment in the public service. These improvements have constituted not only the multi-year wage agreements that we've concluded, including the recent one that we concluded with the Guyana Public Service Union and the Guyana Teachers Union, adjustments in allowances, but also other non-wage benefits, including things like initiatives to make sure citizens have access to house lots, citizens have access to better social services, etc., all aimed at improving the quality of life. And Mr. Speaker, I will say that we are actually observing a very interesting phenomenon, given the level at which public service wages have now increased, and wages in the central government, I should say, because that includes teachers, it includes the discipline services, etc., that we are now able in the central government, Mr. Speaker, to even attract employees in keeping with the same mobility of labor to which I referred. We are able now to attract employees from the private sector into government. So I recall, for example, Mr. Speaker, a time when it would be very rare for a person working in a bank or an insurance company to apply to the central government for a job. Today, sir, not only do we see applications coming from people working in banks and insurance companies expressing an interest in working in the central government, but accepting offers of employment in the central government and moving from banks and insurance companies to come to the central government. We have, the Honorable Minister Manichan points out that there was a time when it would be unimaginable for teachers to leave a private school to come and work in a public school. Today we have teachers who are working in private schools, applying for jobs in the public education system, and accepting job offers and coming to leaving private schools to come to work in the public sector. And here again, like I said, Mr. Speaker, the availability of a wider range of employment opportunities to Guyanese nationals is a positive thing, and is a thing that was missing when the APNU AFC was in government, but thankfully it has been restored and expanded dramatically since the People's Progressive Party returned to government in August 2020. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Halley. So, honorable members, the next question, question number 12, is also in the name of Ms. Tabitha Sarabo Halley. But before I put this question, I want to take you back to Standing Order 20. Okay. And 20 says, the right to ask a question shall be subject to the following general rules, as to interpretation of which the Speaker is the sole judge. The sole judge. It says, the proper object of a question to obtain is to obtain information on a question of fact within which the official cognizance of the minister to whom it is addressed, or to ask for official action. Then, from the polls I've seen, yours truly has been given excellent ratings, except for a few persons, in the execution of the job of Speaker. However, in spite of the Speaker's intellect and experience, there are some moments of lapses. And allowing this question was one of such moments. Because 20F mentioned the issue of opinion. And after I looked at this again last evening, I thought this was soliciting a view, an opinion, and not asking for a fact. And then it was brought to my attention this morning also that the question was asked during the budget debate. It's on the order paper, and I will still allow the minister to prefer an answer to the question, but first let's ask the honorable member to state the question.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for inadvertently allowing me to ask this question at this point. Mr. Minister, I think we had a very productive engagement during the budget speech when we discussed this particular matter. And I would still like to, let me just ask a question, because there's a follow-up that I would like to get to. Can the Honourable Minister inform the House whether the Public Service Ministry had any policy willing to shorten the time served on a government scholarship for a degree from 3 to 5 to 3 years before the person pursues specialization?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I am fully aligned with you and the honourable member in both your respective recollections in relation to the fulsomeness of the engagement on the estimates of expenditure for the Public Service Ministry. The honourable member correctly recalls that we had a comprehensive discussion including on this matter, sir. She no doubt clearly recalls that sir, that this question was posed during the course of the estimates, and I respectfully, sir, would like to draw her attention to the answers that I provided during the said consideration of the estimates. I believe it is or will be recorded in the Hansard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister.
Just a quick follow-up.
Member Halley?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a quick follow-up. Minister, based on the answer that I received then, there was one question that I did not ask, and that is if there is the Ministry of Public Service sees a difference between how the government scholarship, say, and the gold scholarship, where those, in terms of the fact that persons have gold, they don't have to serve time, and they can get another degree if it is, as opposed to the government scholarships where they have to serve in order to move on. So I'm just wondering if they see a difference between those particular scholarships.
Minister? Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think the honourable member had asked a similar question the previous year on the public. I have a recollection, but nevertheless, I would say, sir, that clearly there are differences between the Gold Scholarship Program and the traditional scholarships that are administered by the Public Service Ministry. I wouldn't necessarily say that Gold doesn't require service or public service. I think it's widely known that recipients of Gold Scholarship programs are required to do some kind of public or community service project in relation to their award and receipt of their scholarships. But that is different from the traditional contractual arrangements that apply to public service, to PSM administered scholarships, as I'm sure the honourable member would know. And so, over and beyond the very evident similarities and differences between gold and traditional PSM scholarships, in relation to the matter that constitutes the substantive question, the honourable member will recall that I did say that this matter is engaging active consideration by the government, recognizing the changes that are being made to the scholarships, given that tuition fees have now been abolished at UG. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Minister. Ms. Halley?
Final question, Mr. Speaker. Can the Honourable Minister state whether or not, based on all that has been said, whether or not as government minister, whether he receives a pension or whether or not he doesn't?
Minister?
Mr. Chairman, pensions payable to former members of Parliament and the treatment of those pensions when they return to the Parliament is a matter governed by law and well-established parliamentary practice. And unlike the APNU, AFC, who are strangers to the law and have no respect for the law, we in the People's Progressive Party respect the law with it.
Honorable members, we have 3 more oral questions and we just have 10 minutes remaining on this particular item on our agenda. So let's move on. Question number 13 is from the Honorable Member, Dr. Karen Cummings, for the Minister of Health. Dr. Cummings, you may ask your question.
One second, Mr. Chair. I will take less than the time allotted. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, recent maternal neonatal deaths at the New Amsterdam and Saudi hospitals. Can the Honorable Minister inform the National Assembly what are some of the causes of the recent maternal neonatal deaths at the New Amsterdam and Saudi hospitals early in the year? That's the first one.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker. First of all, maybe it might be good for the House to understand when we talk about a maternal death, what it is exactly that we're talking about. This is the death of a patient while pregnant or within 42 days of termination of pregnancy, irrespective of the duration and the site of the pregnancy, from any cause related to or aggravated by the pregnancy and its management, but not from accidental or incidental causes. We have, under this category of maternal death, there are generally 2 types that we look at: direct obstetric death and indirect obstetric death. And Mr. Speaker, it would be good to note that when we review obstetric deaths, from 2018 we had about 20, 2019, 23, and in 2022 we had 17, 2023 we had 17, 2024 we had 14. So we have seen a decline in these deaths. To come directly to the member's question, for 2025, there have been no maternal deaths at New Amsterdam or Saudi Hospital.
Thank you, Minister.
Well,
Dr. Cummings?
Well, we have to check the veracity of that, because I had interview with the mother. It was well known. So I'll have to speak to the minister subsequently, because there were 2 back-to-back deaths at New Amsterdam. And the funeral took place earlier last month. All right, I'll go to the next
Honorable
question.
Member Dr. Cummings, we had some facts from the minister. You're stating some information which has come to you, and you were talking about the veracity. Could we ask Dr. Anthony to respond?
Was it 2024 rather than 2025, you're saying, Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member asked whether or not there was a maternal death at New Amsterdam in 2025. There was no death at New Amsterdam. And she asked, well, I assume that it's 2025 you're talking about.
But
Oh,
he gave the numbers of 2024.
In 2024, we had 14 deaths across the country. And so there were no deaths at New Amsterdam in 2025. There were no deaths at Soddy Hospital in 2025. But if what you're asking is whether we had maternal deaths for 2025, yes, we had 3. And we had one at Port Morant Hospital. That's not New Amsterdam. We had another one at Charity. That's not Soddy Hospital. And we had a third at Bartica. So there were 3 maternal deaths that happened in 2025, but they did not happen at New Amsterdam nor Soddy Hospital. So the accuracy of what I'm saying, it's quite accurate.
Okay.
Dr. Cummings, honorable member.
So through the chair, the minister is saying, were they direct causes or indirect causes?
Honorable Minister.
So the cause of the first patient, I wouldn't go into the details of the patient, but one of the causes that we have is the person suffered from a ruptured cerebral artery, which caused bleeding, and that was because she was suffering from eclampsia. And you would know that in those conditions, when persons come in with those conditions, they'll have a lot of difficulty, and it would be very difficult to manage such a complicated patient. This patient came in, and within less than an hour, the doctors who were managing that patient had less than an hour to work with that patient. Unfortunately, that patient died. The second person that died suffered from a cardiogenic shock. And again, you would know that with such conditions, persons can deteriorate rapidly, and in this instance, that is what happened. The third patient that we had this year also had severe anemia. That patient first was seen at Charity and transferred to the ICU at the Georgetown Hospital. This person's anemia was, when we checked the HB, it was 1.4, and you can understand what was going on there. And we transfused, but while we transfused, the patient was in almost shock. And we had that patient in the ICU at the Georgetown Hospital. Patient died from DIC, sepsis, and multi-organ failure.
Thank you, Minister. Dr. Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that answer, Honorable Minister. But it just underscore that we are failing in terms of prenatal care because their safe motherhood has 5 concepts. And so you can't wait till the person, what was happening before pregnancy. Pregnancy is 9 months. Anyway, I'll go on to the second question. Can the Honorable Minister inform this National Assembly if there is adequate, as it is required, supervision of junior doctors by experienced and skilled health personnel at the obstetric wards, be it at the regional hospital or Georgetown Hospital, bearing in mind that the health system itself is hemorrhaging from significant loss of senior staff members?
Honorable Minister, before I call on you to stand, I think there are 2 issues there. One, an assertion that we are failing, and secondly, the particular question posed, which was supposed to be number 14. And right now, it's 40 minutes since we started questioning. So at the end of the minister's response, we will have to move on with respect to our agenda. Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. First of all, the 3 cases that I mentioned, we are very specific in the treatment of these patients. And I'm sure as a practicing physician, if you have a person who came in with anemia, where their HB was 1.4 and they're pregnant, that you can understand the complications of that patient. So the system did not fail. The system did not fail. The system responded because we transfused this patient and the patient had the best care. So we moved that patient from the particular hospital to Georgetown Hospital. And in the other instances, again, you should know that if someone is suffering from eclampsia, which means during their pregnancy they had high blood pressure and they were fitting, that person can deteriorate, and you would know complications of pregnancy, that this is one of the reasons why mothers would die during pregnancy. And there's a 17–18% chance that this can happen. So this is nothing. This is not the system failing. The system has actually improved so that we can respond to these types of emergencies. So what you left in 2019, we have significantly improved it. And I can tell you that and the figures are there. The figures are there. In 2018, you had 23 maternal deaths. Last year we had 14. Last year we had 14. You don't think that's an improvement? It is an improvement. And it's going to improve further. It is going to improve further. And not only are we training more people, we are also giving them the equipment that they need, and we are providing better conditions for them to work. So, in addition to that, across this country, we have also added operating theaters, so if they need to get a cesarean section, they'll be able to get that. How many operating theater you had that was working? And now we got more than 24. So, and in addition to all of this, Mr. Speaker, in addition to all of this, we have constantly been doing training for our doctors so that any complications for mothers during their pregnancy, we can respond adequately to it. Now, I come to the...
Honorable Minister, the members out of their seats and shouting, they have to pay you some respect. Go ahead.
I would now like to answer the second question.
At least I did it.
Wait, hold on. So, wait, man.
Who's you, Charles? Who's you? You accomplished, zero accomplished. Zero accomplished. Take 10 years, you can't even get well-open scores yet.
Wait. So the second question, Mr. Speaker, I want to start at the end of the question, because the honorable member said that the system is hemorrhaging, the system is bleeding. So let's take a look at what has happened to the system. In 2015, Mr. Speaker, under the APNU AFC government, you had 690 medical practitioners in the country. And in 2023, we had 1,382 medical practitioners. That's a difference, Mr. Speaker, of 692 doctors between their time and what was happening in 2023. So you tell me how that is hemorrhaging. You tell me how that is bleeding. We have more doctors now in the country and they're providing care. Now let's go to the supervision aspect. Mabaruma Hospital, when you were there, they had no consultant working at the hospital. Right now, there's a consultant that is at Mabaruma Hospital in obstetrics and gynecology. Saudi Hospital, I'm not sure whether you had any person there too. But right now, we have a consultant in obstetrics and gynecology, and we have one senior registrar that is working at Saudi. West Demerara Hospital, 3 consultants in obstetrics and gynecology, 3 senior registrars also working at West Demerara Hospital. Diamond Hospital, 3 registrars working there. Maikoni, 1 consultant, 2 registrars. Fort Wellington, 2 registrars. New Amsterdam, 2 consultants and 3 senior registrars. Bartica, 1 consultant and 1 senior registrar. Madhya, 1 consultant. Letem, 2 consultants and 1 registrar. Linden, 2 consultants and 2 registrar. Georgetown Hospital, 5 consultants, 4 senior registrars, 6 regular registrars, and 14 residents. Tell me if that's not supervision. When you were there, many of these places did not even have a consultant. And this year, Mr. Speaker, we are going to add 18 more consultants in obstetrics and gynecology to the system.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Mr. Clerk.
Follow up.
No.
Statements by ministers, including policy statements, personal explanations, requests for leave to move the adjournment of the National Assembly on definite matters of urgent public importance, motions relating to the business or sittings of the National Assembly, and moved by minister, introduction of bills, public business, private members' business.
I think at introduction of bills, we have a few bills.
Sorry.
Yes.
Introduction of bills. I am getting old, Mr. Speaker.
Temporary lapses. Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Legal.
May it
Go
please
ahead,
you, Mr.
Honorable.
Speaker, on behalf of the Attorney General, I present to the Assembly the Court of Appeal Amendment Bill 2025, Bill number 3 of 2025, a bill entitled An Act to amend the Court of Appeal Act, and I move that the bill be read for the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Court of Appeal Amendment Bill 2025, Bill number 3 of 2025.
Honorable Priya Manichan for the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs. We have the advanced passenger information and
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Mr. Speaker, I rise to present to the Assembly the Advanced Passenger Information and Passenger Name Record Bill 2025, Bill number 4 of 2025, a bill entitled An Act to Make Provision for the Collection, Transmission, Sharing, Storage, and Regulation of Advanced Passengers.
let the bill be read the first time.
Advanced Passenger Information and Passenger Name Record Bill 2025,
Bill number 4 of 2025.
Honorable Member gained the share. I don't know who's presenting the third one, the Regional Security System Bill 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Robeson Ben, Minister of Home Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, thank you again in the name of the Honorable Attorney General. I present to the Assembly the Regional Security System Bill 2025, Bill number 5 of 2025, a bill entitled An Act to Provide for the Implementation of the Treaty Establishing the Regional Security System and for Connected Matters, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Regional Security System Bill 2025, Bill number 5 of 2025.
We have now the CARICOM Arrest Warrant Bill 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, Minister Ben.
Again, in the name and on behalf of the Honorable Attorney General, Minister of Legal Affairs. Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly the CARICOM Arrest Warrant Bill 2025, Bill number 6 of 2025, a bill entitled An Act to Give Effect to the CARICOM Arrest Warrant Treaty and to provide for related matters, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
CARICOM Arrest Warrant Bill 2025, Bill number 6 of 2025. Public business, private members' business.
Honorable members, today is a day where or when opposition motions gets precedence. I now call on the Honorable Member, Ms. Valda Lawrence, who will move her motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, fellow members of Parliament and citizens of Georgetown, Megan Rapiney said, and I quote, "Every person has a responsibility to be a participant in this society and make it a better place for everybody in whatever capacity they can." End of quote. So this morning, I rise with a deep sense of duty and responsibility to propose this motion for the rehabilitation of the Lee Repentier Cemetery, a sacred resting place for our citizens that has long been neglected. To my mind, sir, this proposal is not merely about restoring a cemetery. It is about honoring our past, respecting our present, and safeguarding our future. Mr. Speaker, the Lee Repentier Cemetery, established since 1861, has been serving as the final resting place for generations of our citizens. Many of our forefathers, community leaders, martyrs, and loved ones have been laid to rest within its hallowed grounds. Yet today, these grounds, which should be easily accessible, evoking a sense of peace, respect, and reverence, have become an ugly scene of neglect, decay, and even danger. Over the years, we have witnessed the cemetery's expansion from its original size of 103.5 acres to 106.5 acres, with almost full utilization of all the available land. However, with that expansion, sir, has come deterioration. Tombs have fallen into canals, others have cracked, and in some cases vandalized and completely broken. Drainage within the cemetery is nearly non-existent, leading to an overrun landscape that now resembles a jungle. Mr. Speaker, Lee Repentier, instead of being a place where families visiting their loved ones can find solace, alas, it has become a haven for criminal activity. It is unacceptable that a site meant for respect and remembrance has turned into a place of fear and neglect. Mr. Speaker, the Georgetown City Council, tasked with maintaining the cemetery, lacks adequate funds and manpower to provide critical services such as security, regular maintenance, and proper infrastructure. This, Mr. Speaker, is not just a matter of municipal concern, it is a national issue. For a society that fails to care for its dead will struggle to uphold the dignity of the living, someone said. The resolve clause of this motion calls on this House to recognize the urgent need for intervention and commitment. And I propose the following to this House. 1, restore the cemetery's infrastructure, ensuring proper drainage, clearing overgrowth, and undertaking or executing repairs to damaged tombs. 2, implement a sustainable maintenance plan, providing the Georgetown City Council with the necessary resources and support. And 3, improve security, thereby ensuring that families can visit their loved ones in safety and peace. Mr. Speaker, it is a well-known fact that families looking for their loved ones who were buried there must ensure that they have security, that they pay persons to clear the bushes so that they can have access to their tombs. And we do not want this to continue, Mr. Speaker. Surely, the members of this National Assembly will agree with me and will not allow this sacred ground to fall into further ruin. So therefore, let us act not just in homage to the dead, but for the dignity of the living. I therefore urge all members of this House to support this motion and take a stand for respect, remembrance, and responsibility. We owe our loved ones that respect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I put the motion to the House.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Now for the Honorable Bishop Juan Tejo, Minister of Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And allow me to thank the honorable member, the mover of this motion, for giving us an opportunity to discuss what I may consider a very important subject that affects all Guyanese from all walks of life. Mr. Speaker, I'd like it to be recorded that nothing that I will say in this debate should be interpreted to mean that the government is unwilling, unable, or reluctant, or is reluctant in ensuring the beautification, enhancing the appearance of not just the Leprontier Cemetery, but cemeteries throughout the length and breadth of Guyana. Mr. Speaker, it would be also important for you to note that maybe the honorable member or some other members are privy to an ongoing exercise that has commenced several months ago, when at the level of the cabinet, we decided that across the country, all the cemeteries should be addressed and we should bring improvement. So this National Assembly is debating a motion where the government, the executive, is way ahead in terms of its actions in getting this correct. So there should be no fight. But I must put on the record a number of things. The honorable member, the mover of this motion, referred to that the City Council is unable to fund the rehabilitation and enhancement of the Leprontier Cemetery. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member who's the mover of this motion is a senior member of a political party that owes the mayor and city council $6.4 billion of rates and taxes. If the company that is a holding facility for Congress Place just simply pay their rates and taxes, the issue of the enhancement of the Leprontier Cemetery by the competent authority, which is the mayor and city council, could be addressed in a week's time.
Starving the city of resources.
Just simply pay your rates and taxes.
And keep it with the law.
The mayor of Georgetown, who's an elected member, and his ticket on which he was elected, the list on which he was elected, was a list that was presented by the PNCR. And I would have thought that this well-scripted presentation that came from the distinguished member, Ms. Waller Lawrence, the script is being read in the wrong assembly.
That's correct.
That script is for City Hall,
That's correct.
where the majority councillors are PNCR councillors, should move a motion to say, pay your rates and taxes and let us do something to improve Georgetown, including the Leprontier Cemetery. So I am very concerned about this. The second thing that I want to point out that is very important, the honorable member, the mover of this motion, did not tell this assembly that under the laws of Guyana 2801 and the 2802, 2801 that deals with municipalities, 2802 that deals with local authority areas, it is the responsibility of the local authority, in this case, the Georgetown Mayor and City Council, to keep the cemetery in good condition. As a matter of fact, all the persons, family members who have to engage funeral homes or parlors, the monies they pay are paid to City Hall for the spot. It is not a free story. So where is the money that is being paid for burial going? So we have to answer that question. Every person who is buried, their family members have to pay a fee. A fee to get access to the Leprontier Cemetery to bury their dead. But allow me, Mr. Speaker, to inform this National Assembly of Governments' engagement in the city of Georgetown, where the Leprontier Cemetery is just a small aspect of this. But I'll tell you a little story, something that actually happened. We all know that the Enmore martyrs are buried in the Leprontier Cemetery. And there's an annual celebration of their sacrifice. There's a wreath-laying ceremony. And that has been observed no matter who is in government. There's a monument at Enmore. In 2021, after assuming office, yes, and Walter Rodney. In 2021, after assuming office as the Minister of Public Works, we decided that we will create a decent and well put out approach that will last for years, so that when the family members of the Enmore martyrs, the labor unions, the government officials, whoever would want to go there to pay tribute, they can do so. Mr. Speaker, we engaged a small contractor to clean up, make a concrete road. You know what happened after? The city engineer showed up to stop the work. The city engineer showed up to stop the work. I'm going to say it a third time. The city engineer showed up to stop the work on instructions of City Hall.
PNC-led City Hall.
A City Hall where the PNCR has the majority, the mayor, and everything, sent the city engineer to stop the cleanup and the rehab to the Enmore Martyrs' tomb. A beginning of what we're now asking for here today. Because just like how the Enmore Martyrs' family members must be able to get to their tomb, the labor unions must be able to get to their tomb, the family members of Dr. Rodney must be able to get to his tomb, I should be able to visit my father's tomb, who's also there, and many others in this room. The failure of the City Hall to get the job done, government intervened, and we were given cease orders. So why is this motion in this house? Are we playing politics, or somebody is not being informed?
The word is sanctimonious.
Are we seriously discussing something that is of a good for all of Guyana, or somebody is not being properly informed? I did the work because I refused to take the instructions. I completed the task, and we went on to fix several other places in City Hall, in the Leprontier Cemetery. I confused City Hall with the Leprontier Cemetery, but it's not a coincidence. But Mr. Speaker, allow me AI and misinformation seems to be the modus operandi of some of you. So continue. We could defend that at any time. So, since we came to office with the understanding that Georgetown needed a renewal and Georgetown needed to be rehabilitated in several different ways, we have spent just on the main access roads, including the access roads contiguous to the Leprontier Cemetery, for the enhancement of Georgetown and bringing dignity to the living, as the honorable member asks that we do. We have already expended almost $20 billion in the improvement of Georgetown. And I can give you the journey and how we had all the humor. We started at Hunter Street, which was a choke point. And when we said it would be a 3-lane, 2 lanes going south in the afternoons and 2 lanes going north in the morning, we had the criticisms from members of the cabinet, of the parliament. The parliament. When we went to All Boys Town and started to rehabilitate all the drainage networks to take the people out of flooding, using the same people from the area to get the work done. Very good. You know what? The mayor, who's now no longer the mayor, and he's not, oh, he's here to listen, but I could call his name because he probably could, wrote us a letter
Come to pray this time.
and is seeking to interrupt government's interventions, saying that we needed the permission of City Hall. I would like to get a letter from the mayor and city council. Now that we have finished Cemetery Road and we have fenced it particularly to stop the dumping of garbage, because I'm going to go just now to the dumping of garbage and tomb squatting. Tomb squatting is taking place in the cemetery right now. Have an next, please. Mr. Speaker, I am assured that you travel that road. And you know what is happening right now? People are cutting the fence that we have erected to go and build tombs. They're cutting the fence. I didn't see anything like that in the motion that we asked that there be stronger enforcement and responsible actions taken by citizens who are damaging government property when efforts are being made by the government to enhance the Leprontier. We went to Independence Boulevard, an area that, Mr. Speaker, you're so familiar with. Much of your boyhood days, both your soccer and cricket, was played on that boulevard. Now, we have the description of the boulevard as Brooklyn, New York. That is how the people of the area described it when it was completed. Right now, as we speak, Sussex Street, on both sides of the Cemetery Road that runs at the outskirts of the Leprontier Cemetery, is being rehabilitated and upgraded, which will give greater access to the Leprantier Cemetery. Mr. Speaker, I want you to see the pattern that is unfolding. We are working from the outside, coming in. For the first time in the history of Guyana, we're going to have a road from Cemetery Road on the southern extremity of the Leprantier Cemetery all the way to Mandela Avenue. Princess Street, which is the northern extremity of the Leprantier Cemetery, is also being rehabilitated and major works are being undertaken. In the Leprantier Cemetery, there are several main roads and drains that has to be addressed. The honorable member, Ms. Lawrence, is asking that we take care of the drains, the roads, and I would want to add lights. Okay, nice, if there's lights. Our estimates that we are working with, if the company that is a holding company for Congress Place, we have the rates and taxes, I only need 1.3 billion out of that 6.4, and we could get all the work done in Cemetery. 1.3 out of the 6.4 to deal with all of the main roads and all of the cross streets and all of the drains. We have the estimates and we are working on them. As a matter of fact, you will see very soon people from the area, East Rungveld, West Rungveld, all boys down, Northeast Penitence, would be engaged in small contracts to do concrete roads in the cemetery, the Leprantier Cemetery. Mr. Speaker, for the avoidance of doubt, I have brought to the Assembly the photographs, the Google images of all the streets that will be undertaken. So this is not something that we have to go and think about. This is something that we already have the plan, and we already have Mr. Speaker, so the 6 main roads between the cemetery from east to west direction, these roads give access to the cemetery. They will be rehabilitated. 13 cross streets, minor roads that run perpendicular to the main roads. These cross streets will give further access to areas within the cemetery. And there are 4 footpaths that run between the cross streets. These footpaths will provide further access to the cemetery. And all are part of our urban rehab program for the development of Georgetown, and the cemetery being part of that. Like I told you, one of the things that we're having right now is because whether it's the parlors or family members, because of the vegetation that exists there, wholly as a result of the neglect of the main city council, people are now burying their dead in the paths of the road. And that is what I'm calling tomb squatting. So now that you're going to fix the roads, we have a problem. Because people are very sensitive when tombs have to be moved. So we have a situation that is there. And one of the things, Mr. Jones, I see you paying very keen attention. We've come up with the engineering solution. And it's simple. Going forward, when somebody buries their dead, rather than just casting the tomb they will have to do a certain amount of feet off the tomb to ensure the distance between this tomb and the next tomb is concreted, so that we don't have the problem of grass and trees growing up between the tombs. Simple and straightforward. So when you get your space for the tomb, after we would have put in the roads and the drains, you just need 2 feet. 2 feet between the one tomb and the next tomb, we concrete it and we keep going down. And in that way, the maintenance of the cemetery would require minimum intervention as against the remaining grass and trees and everything that is growing that is there. And that's part of what is our development plan. And that is not just something for Le Repentir, it is something for all the cemeteries countrywide. We're going to put a proposal to the local authorities so they should adopt it as a new protocol. So when somebody goes to bury, they get a design of the tomb, how many feet you have to go down, how high. Well, some people want to build mausoleums as well. But the space between must be adequately addressed to prevent future growth of vegetation. Mr. Speaker, I know I have other colleagues who will be speaking on this motion. And I'm sure that when they come to speak, they will elaborate on several other aspects. But I would like to remind, it was the PPPC government that brought an halt to the dump site in the cemetery and contracted, with support of the IDB, the establishment of the Higgs-Bosch sanitary landfill facility. You recall on how many instances fires broke out in the cemetery. You will recall that under the watch of City Hall, you would go through Cemetery Road and there will be truckloads of garbage dumped at various intersections. This is not something that we are manufacturing. It is something that all the people who live in the neighborhood and all the people who traverse that thoroughfare would have seen. So we have not sat on our hands as it relates to cemetery, the Le Repentir Cemetery. We have been proactive. And since we have recognized that no matter what you urge City Hall to do and what you give them money to do, because, Mr. Speaker, under the APNU tenure in government, there was a Georgetown restoration program. Very effective? The Auditor General is unable until now to complete the audit. You know why? I didn't have the audit report, but I'm a member of the PAC, and the chairman of the PAC is in this house, where it says hundreds of vouchers were paid without any authorized signature. No supporting documents. Where did the money go? There was a Georgetown restoration program that included the Le Repentir Cemetery. Where is the money? Let City Hall say, where is the money? We can go through that same Auditor General's report. City Hall has not been audited for years. For years. You know why? We are hearing forever, we ain't got the money, we ain't got the money. But the audited report is to tell you where the money went, how it was spent. City Hall must get her act together. So whether It was under the mayor, the Honorable Pandit Obraj, or Mayor Mentor, or all the other mayors that went before, including my good friend Mr. Hamilton Green and Chase Green. Everybody must be able to say, where is the money? And I don't know if the honorable member consulted with her colleague, who I think now is the General Secretary of the AFC, about what was the program of the Ministry of Public Infrastructure when they were in government. Of course, they were in the same cabinet. The money that I need to fix the Leprontier, put in the drains, the roads, the lights, and the cameras, if Congress place pay up their money, we have it. And you don't need to give me, give it to the city hall, give it to the city hall, give it to the city hall. So, how much money did we spend on Durban Park? The same 1-point-something billion that was spent on the beautification of Georgetown by building the Durban Park, which is a home right now for vagrants, crocodile, centipede, wood ants. If that money was properly spent, the Leprontier Cemetery would be looking better. So, the reality of what we have here is that we must be able to understand some simple principles. Let's establish it. From the time the PPPC entered office in 2022, whether it was Minister Shavir or Minister Nocta or Prime Minister Sam Hines or Minister Robeson Ben and now Minister Juan Edgil, the government of Guyana have made several interventions financed by central government at different times for the cleanup and the rehabilitation of City Hall. Number two, this debate in the National Assembly should be used to stir all citizens into action, including the business community, who sometimes hire cheap labor to deposit their waste. And rather than people taking it all the way to Higgs Bush, we still have waste being dumped in the City Hall. All of the funeral parlors and people who are engaged in burials at the Leprontier. You know, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, there was a time, I'm sorry that I have to say this, but I'm going to say it because I believe in saying the truth. There was a time when the most well-kept section of the Leprontier Cemetery was the Muslim burial ground. And that was because the Muslim organizations used to go and actually clean the area.
Honorable Minister, on that point, we'll have to ask for an extension. And though he is at the right point, because 3 years ago we couldn't access the grave of my dad because there were killer bees there. So, go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask for the honourable member, as in accordance with the standing order, to be given more time to conclude his presentation.
Honourable Minister, the standing orders provide for up to 15 minutes for you to conclude.
Mr. Speaker, So NGOs, faith-based organizations, play their role, and that must be acknowledged. But what we have, and we are cognizant of that, we have a significant drainage issue at the Le Frontier Cemetery. And the drainage issues because a lot of the drains are blocked with garbage. So we have to be able to clean and make way, because once the drains are blocked, the water remains on the land, it becomes soggy, people cannot access. And I think, Mr. Speaker, it would be remiss of me, while we are discussing the awful appearance of the Le Frontier Cemetery, that we must take note that there have been significant improvements to the general appearance of Georgetown as a whole. Whether we start with the seawalls, and we still have to get the shantytown appearance at a certain section to come in line, and we have been working with those stakeholders to get that done. Whether you want us to talk about the entire Lamaha corridor, you used to recall that you used to have a whole lot of squatting houses there in the Lamaha corridor. That is now a green space that people could use. You may recall the way Independence Boulevard used to look, and it is one of the most used environments. I came through there this morning, and while we have contractors who we pay to clean up, when after a Sunday, the Monday morning don't always look so good, and we have to be able to get some improvements on that. The cemetery road, which some believe would have never been completed, and I would like to say that no matter how difficult a project is for its implementation and the challenges we face, whether it's with the contractor or the environment, the PPPCE has a record that when we set out to do something, we do it and we deliver it. And now we're adding to all of that Conversation Tree, an area that you are familiar with, and most of my colleagues on that side, because they have to drive to go to Congress Place. What used to be canals with heavy vegetation in what was called an upscale neighborhood has now been transformed. It has now been transformed, and we have a very efficient artery, an expanded thoroughfare. The safety measures are being put in place, and now we're continuing that all the way down to Francois Avenue. That's Georgetown. We are seeing what we did at Vicingen Road, the geometric improvement, what we did on Lamaha Street, from Vicingen Road heading east all the way back to Mandela. You have seen the rehabilitation of the bridges. As a matter of fact, the first bridge that we had to deal with as a government in Georgetown was the Sussex Street Bridge. And when we went out in an emergency mode to get that bridge done, we had challenges from the Mayor and City Council again. What they want is that we should give them the money to build the bridge. an entity that has not been audited in 20-something years. So we did the Sussex Street Bridge. And in the same approach, where it's Linden, where we have done waterfront development, where it's in New Amsterdam, where it's in Bartica, Supernam, Charity, Corriverton, wherever, our urban renewal, rehabilitation program, beautification program is making a difference in Guyana and is being utilized by thousands of Guyanese and thousands of our visitors when they come to Guyana. So the Leprontier is a subset of what we will be doing for Georgetown, and you can be assured, long before this motion, the work has started, and we will continue to execute it. And not only the Leprontier Cemetery, but across the country, the decision of the government, the instructions from the executive, the policy that we are working with, we'll work with the local authority areas, and we have to do things different, and we have to ensure that we take care of these areas. And because of some of them where they are positioned, they're very obvious to people. They're along the main highways, they're in the main, and we see them, and we have to fix them. So, Mr. Speaker, I will close by simply saying that this motion is probably in the wrong house. But since it is here, and it provides an opportunity for us to discuss government's plan, I want to assure all Guyanese, we start off by taking care of the living first. Because somebody's going to be smart enough, why don't do it yet? Well, we had thousands of roads to fix where people are living. And now that we are concluding that kind of an engagement, our second level is getting these other facilities. Minister Charles Ramson is taking care of playgrounds throughout the length and breadth of Guyana. Well, you could heckle non-accessible, but it is no longer bush pasture and cow pens like they used to be before, because people are actually using them and playing. And many of them now have floodlights. So we are moving forward. Our schools, the Honorable Minister Manny Chan will tell you that in this new wave of urban renewal and what we are doing, all the school compounds where the children did assemblies, standing on mud, and where rain when it fell was slushy, we're going to tarmac every school compound where the children can have their assembly and be out of the mud. Those are the things we are doing countrywide. So, with these words, Mr. Speaker, I have made my views known, and I've given the people of Guyana the assurances that they needed. Their government is acting on their behalf, not just because of this motion, but because we care and we want to do better for Guyana. God bless you and thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Public Works. Honorable members, this is a good time for us to take the suspension, and let us try to be back here by 12:15 my time. Sorry, 1:15.
Look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time when night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass.